It appeared on an internal Chinese server at 3:21 a.m. Beijing time, a raw, high-contrast frame from the far side of the moon. The camera belonged to the U-2 rover from the Chang'e 4 mission. At first glance, it looked like every other lunar shot: gray regolith, craters, jagged horizon, until one engineer zoomed in on the upper right corner. There it was, a shape that did not belong on any natural landscape. A vertical structure casting a long, sharp shadow across the crater floor. Straight edges, right angles. A narrow column rising from the dust topped by a wider cap. Like a monolith half buried in the regolith. It stood maybe 8 meters tall, smooth, featureless, and it reflected light. The engineer pulled the next frame. The structure was still there. Different angle. Same impossible geometry. He checked the timestamps. The rover had inched forward less than half a meter between shots. The parallax shift confirmed it. This was not a pixel glitch, not a lens artifact. It was real, solid, standing on the far side of the moon. He flagged the images. Within minutes, senior staff were awake. The room filled, screens lit up. Someone cross-checked the rover's coordinates. The structure sat near the rim of a small, unnamed crater, not far from the South Pole Aitken Basin. No previous mission had ever photographed this exact spot. It was uncharted terrain, until now. The debate started immediately. Natural formation or artificial object? Skeptics pointed to strange boulders seen by Apollo. Rocks can fracture in odd ways. Light can play tricks at low angles near the lunar dawn. But the more they enhanced the image, the less it looked like a rock. The sides were too straight, the corners too sharp, the shadow too clean. Then came the second file, not a still image. A short video snippet from the rover's navigation camera shot a few minutes later. As the rover adjusted position, sunlight glanced off the structure's surface. For a fraction of a second, the cap flashed with a bright specular highlight. That told them everything. The surface was not dusty, not porous. It was smooth, metallic. The room went quiet. Within 1 hour, access to the raw feed was locked. Passwords changed. External links severed. Officially, the images did not exist. The Chinese National Space Administration drafted a short internal memo. The directive was clear. This data was now a national security matter. No public release, no scientific paper, no conference talk. Silence. But it was already too late. One technician working the night shift had made a private copy. Habit. He liked saving interesting frames, comets, Earthrise, odd shadows. He dragged the folder to his personal drive without thinking. 12 hours later, off duty at home, curiosity got the better of him. He opened the files, stared, zoomed in, took a deep breath, then did something that would change his life forever. He uploaded 3 images to a small forum used by amateur astronomers and space enthusiasts. No context, no captions, just the frames. The username was new, the account anonymous, but the images spoke for themselves. The thread title was simple: "Explain this." For 6 hours, nobody important noticed. A handful of users argued about compression artifacts and pareidolia. Some claimed it was a hoax. Others insisted it was obviously real. Then someone ran an error-level analysis on the files. The noise pattern matched known Chang'e 4 images. The EXIF data lined up with official timestamps. The coordinates placed the view exactly where the rover was supposed to be that sol. By the time moderators deleted the thread, the images had been saved, mirrored, and reposted in a dozen places. 2 small accounts on Western social media shared them with the caption, "Leaked far side moon photo." Within another hour, a popular space blogger picked it up, then a major tech channel, then a mainstream news site. The story jumped from fringe to global in a single afternoon. China reacted fast. They called the images fake, said someone had manipulated public data, announced an internal investigation into cyber attacks. State media released new official photos of the same region. In those photos, the structure was gone. The terrain was smooth, empty, just rocks and dust. Independent analysts compared the official release with the leak. The lighting angles matched. The horizon line matched. Small pebbles in the foreground matched. Only one thing did not match: the tall metallic column and its shadow. In the official frames, that area looked clumsily edited. Blurred edges, repeated noise patterns. It was a bad patch job. For people used to examining pixels, the attempted cover-up might as well have been a confession. The question then shifted. Not, is it real, but what is it? Theories exploded overnight. One camp said it was human, a leftover from some secret mission, maybe a classified Soviet probe that landed decades ago, or part of an American black program that never went public. But orbital maps showed no hardware listed in that region, no planned impact sites or landers, and the object's design did not match any known space architecture. No antenna, no solar panels, no joints. Another camp insisted it was alien. The word nobody in any official capacity wanted to say out loud. A structure placed on the far side of the moon for reasons unknown. Maybe a beacon, maybe a sensor, maybe a monument. The far side is shielded from Earth's radio noise, an ideal place to listen, to watch, to wait. A third camp pushed a hybrid theory. It was human in the sense that someone on Earth put it there, but the technology, the geometry, the materials came from somewhere else. Reverse engineered, tested in the one place you can leave strange things standing for decades without public interference, the hidden hemisphere of our own satellite. Western agencies were caught in an awkward position. Reporters demanded comment from NASA. Had they known? Did American orbiters ever see this object from above? Previous missions like Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter had high-resolution images of most of the moon. But strangely, no one could find a clear overhead shot of that exact crater at sufficient resolution. The few passes available showed shadows and low detail, nothing definitive. NASA spokespeople repeated the same line. No evidence of artificial structures on the moon. They emphasized that weird lighting and geology can create illusions. They promised to re-examine archived data. They did not mention that internal emails later leaked showed frantic searches for any mention of the coordinates. One thread between senior analysts contained a single chilling sentence. Check classified catalog 4. Russia weighed in through a former cosmonaut turned TV pundit. He hinted at old stories from the Soviet Lunar program, unusual reflections on the far side, signals that did not match instrument noise, basalt pillars that looked too symmetrical. Each tale ended the same way. Data archived, access restricted, no follow-up. Quietly, the European Space Agency scheduled a trajectory adjustment for one of its lunar orbiters. The new path would take the craft directly over the contested crater. High-resolution cameras would target the area at multiple sun angles. Officially, it was just another mapping campaign. Unofficially, it was an attempt to verify what China would not admit. Before those images came down, something else happened. 8 days after the leak, the Chang'e 4 rover transmitted one last anomalous dataset, a short burst of radio noise superimposed on its normal engineering telemetry. It lasted precisely 19 seconds. The pattern repeated 3 times. Engineers first thought it was interference. Then someone overlaid the waveform on the original leaked image. The peaks lined up with the edges of the structure's shadow. It looked like a rudimentary encoding, a crude outline of a vertical line with a cap. The rover had seen something and tried to send a schematic, or something near the rover had transmitted through it, using the Chinese hardware as a relay. Within minutes, the rover went silent. Official explanation: it had reached the end of its operational life. Battery issues, dust, thermal cycling. A noble mission completed. Telemetry from that moment forward was unrecoverable. No mention of the anomalous burst, no mention of the timing. For people paying attention, that was the real trigger. One unexplained object you can call an illusion, but a strange structure, a bad Photoshop, a sudden data anomaly, and an instant rover shutdown. That felt like a pattern. Something on the far side did not want to be examined closely, or something here did not want the public to see more. Weeks passed, attention drifted, other crises dominated headlines, markets, storms, elections. The leaked images slid down algorithmic feeds, replaced by fresh outrage. But in physics labs and backroom meetings, the crater and its impossible structure remained a live topic. Why build anything on the far side at all? If it was human, secrecy was the obvious reason. Radar from Earth cannot see that hemisphere. Direct radio contact requires relay satellites. Any long-term installation there would be invisible to casual observation. A perfect place for secret experiments, deep space listening posts, or tests involving technologies too risky to operate near Earth. If it was not human, the logic was similar, but more profound. From the far side, Earth is never in the sky. The radio noise of our civilization is blocked by thousands of kilometers of rock. For an observer interested in the rest of the universe, the far side is prime real estate, a natural shield creating the quietest radio environment in the inner solar system. Put a listening device there, and you can watch us without being deafened by our own chatter. You can also watch everything else. Astronomers had long dreamed of putting a giant radio telescope in a lunar crater on the far side, a dish kilometers wide, cooled by shadow, free from Earth's interference. They published glossy concept art, proposed missions, wrote white papers about mapping the cosmic dark ages. Humanity never funded it. But what if someone else did? That thought haunted a small group of scientists who gathered at a private conference in Geneva 3 months after the leak. No press, no official record, just physicists, radio astronomers, and a few people with vague titles tied to intelligence agencies. They put the leaked images on a big screen, blew up the pixels, measured angles, extrapolated heights from shadow lengths, calculated structural stability under lunar gravity. The object could stand for millions of years without collapsing. No atmosphere, no weather, no erosion except micrometeorites. It could be very old. Then one radio astronomer pulled up a different data set, historical records of unexplained narrowband radio bursts that had been dismissed as terrestrial interference, signals that appeared only when certain regions of the far side rotated into alignment with Earth and distant cosmic sources. The timing was odd, too repeatable, too consistent with something reflecting or modulating background radiation. He highlighted one cluster, events separated by exactly 19 years, each burst lasting 19 seconds, each occurring when the same crater region faced away from Earth and toward a specific patch of sky near the galactic center. The room went very quiet. If there truly was an artificial structure there, it might not be transmitting like a beacon. It might be doing something more subtle, sampling cosmic signals, encoding them, occasionally bouncing a slice toward Earth when geometry permitted. Enough to say, yes, we are here, and yes, we are listening. A woman from an agency that did not officially exist asked the question everyone else was avoiding. If someone built this, do they still come back to check on it? No one answered, because if the answer was yes, then the far side of the moon was not just an archaeological site, it was an active installation, a node in a network we knew nothing about, a device placed in our backyard by a civilization that did not ask permission, one that might already have schedules, routines, and protocols running without regard for human timelines. The Geneva group drafted a harsh recommendation: do not approach, do not send landers into that crater. Do not attempt to interfere with or dismantle the structure. Observe from orbit only. They argued that any tampering could trigger automated responses, alarms, countermeasures, or far worse, attention from whoever built it. Attention humanity might not be ready to handle, not with nations still lying to each other about what they had already seen. Their report circulated quietly. Some agencies took it seriously, others did not. Ambitions are hard to restrain. The chance to seize alien technology, if that is what it was, proved too tempting. Within a year, at least 3 covert projects existed with the same goal. Get to the monolith first, touch it, take something, find out what happens. The mission had no official name, budget hidden across shell programs, launch window classified, crew selected from retired military astronauts who signed agreements that erased them from public records. They were ghosts before they left the ground, and if something went wrong, they would stay ghosts forever. The spacecraft lifted off from a remote facility in Kazakhstan on May 3, 2026, disguised as a commercial satellite deployment. No press release, no live stream, just a night launch witnessed by a handful of observers who posted grainy phone footage online. The payload fairing looked too large for a simple sat deploy. Analysts who tracked orbital mechanics noticed the burn profile was wrong. The craft was not heading for Earth orbit. It was heading for the moon. 2 weeks later, it entered lunar orbit. Radio silence maintained throughout. No telemetry shared with international space monitoring networks. The orbit was polar, high inclination, perfect for mapping or surveillance, or for landing on the far side. June 7, 2026. A seismic sensor left by a previous Chinese mission recorded vibrations, brief tremors consistent with a rocket burn. Then a heavier thud. Something had landed. The coordinates matched the disputed crater, exactly where the monolith stood. Western intelligence picked up the seismic data within hours. Confirmation came from a classified American military lunar surveillance satellite. Infrared showed cooling descent engines, a small thermal signature near the structure. Someone was there, on foot, moving around the object. For 3 days, nothing leaked publicly. Governments watched in real time. Analysts archived every data point. Decisions were made about what to do if the mission succeeded, or if it failed catastrophically. On day 4, a heavily compressed video file appeared on a darknet server. No metadata, no source, just 47 seconds of helmet camera footage. The first frame showed boots crunching regolith. The view panned up. There it was, the monolith, taller than it looked in the leaked photo, maybe 12 meters high. The surface was not metal, not stone, something in between. Smooth, but not reflective. Matte black with a faint iridescence like oil on water. The edges were perfect, machine precise. No erosion, no pitting from micrometeorites. As if it had been placed yesterday. The astronaut approached, gloved hand extended. Fingertips touched the surface. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the hand jerked back. The camera shook. Heavy breathing filled the audio. Words in Russian. It is warm. It should not be warm. The camera zoomed in on the contact point. Where the glove had touched, a faint glow appeared. Pale blue, spreading outward in fractal patterns like frost on glass. Within seconds, the entire structure was glowing, pulsing. The light intensified. The astronaut stumbled backward. The feed cut to static. That was all. 47 seconds. Then nothing. The video circulated for 6 hours before being scrubbed from every major platform. Accounts that shared it were suspended, mirrors deleted, but thousands had already downloaded it. Forensic analysts confirmed the footage was unaltered. The timestamp matched the seismic event. The lighting matched known lunar conditions. The suit design matched Russian next-generation EVA gear not officially deployed yet. Governments scrambled. Russia issued a flat denial. No mission, no astronauts. Clearly fabricated propaganda. China said nothing. The United States released a statement urging calm and dismissing conspiracy theories. Behind closed doors, panic. Because 3 hours after the video leaked, the seismic sensors recorded something new. A deep, sustained vibration. Not a quake, a tone, a frequency. It lasted 11 minutes, then stopped. When analysts converted the vibration pattern to audio, it sounded like a single low note. A hum that should not exist on an airless world. The astronaut never returned. Orbital tracking showed no launch from the surface, no ascent vehicle. The lander sat cold and dark. Hatch open, interior empty. One set of footprints led to the monolith. None led back. Search and rescue was discussed, then quietly shelved. Whoever sent that crew knew the risks. Recovery was never part of the plan. 2 months later, the European Space Agency released images from their lunar orbiter. High resolution, multiple sun angles. The crater in question was clearly visible, but the monolith was gone. The spot where it stood showed only undisturbed regolith, smooth, flat, as if nothing had ever been there. Either the original images were fake after all, or something had moved, buried itself, or dematerialized. Analysts compared shadows and boulders in the background. Everything else matched perfectly, only the structure was missing, erased between observation windows. That should have ended the story. Object disappeared, mystery unsolved, move on. But it did not end. August 2026. Astronomers at the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico detected an anomalous radio signal. Brief, directional, originating from lunar orbit, not from any known satellite. The frequency was unusual, higher than typical spacecraft comms. The modulation was strange, almost like a data burst, but compressed beyond recognition. They triangulated the source. It was moving, circling the moon in a tight polar orbit. The trajectory did not match any registered object. When they checked radar, nothing appeared. Optically, nothing visible. But the radio signal was undeniable. Something was there, broadcasting, invisible. The signal repeated every 19 hours, always the same duration, 19 seconds, the same number that kept appearing. 19 years between historical bursts, 19 seconds in the rover transmission, 19 seconds in the leaked helmet cam before the glow started. A pattern too specific to ignore. Cryptographers tried to decode it, found structure but no meaning. It was not language, not binary, not mathematics. It felt more like a carrier wave, a placeholder, as if the content was not in the signal itself, but in what the signal was pointing to, a reference to something elsewhere. September 2026. Amateur astronomers started reporting strange occurrences during lunar observations. Flashes near the limb, brief, bright, appearing and vanishing in seconds. Always on the far side edge, always when the moon was in specific orbital positions relative to Earth and the galactic plane. Professional observatories dismissed them as satellite glints or cosmic ray strikes on camera sensors, but the amateurs kept logging them, building a database. One researcher in Japan noticed something. The flashes clustered around 19 specific craters, all on or near the far side, all previously unremarkable. But when you mapped them, they formed a geometric pattern. Not random, not natural. The distances between craters followed a mathematical ratio. Prime numbers again: 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, 19. If each crater marked a structure like the one photographed, then the far side was not hiding one anomaly. It was hiding a network, an array, and arrays have purposes: communication, navigation, detection, or targeting. October 2026. A whistleblower leaked documents from a classified NASA archive. The files dated back to Apollo, specifically Apollo 17, the last manned mission. Transcripts of private communications between the crew and Houston, conversations that were never released publicly. In one exchange, the lunar module pilot described seeing lights on the far side horizon during orbital passes, small, stationary, arranged in a line. Houston asked for photos. He complied. The photos were logged, then classified. The official mission report mentioned nothing. The leaked documents included low-resolution scans of those photos, blurry, overexposed, but you could see them. Tiny points of light, evenly spaced, forming a curve along the far side terrain, the exact region where the crater network was later identified. Apollo 17 flew in December 1972. That meant the lights, the structures, the network had been there for at least 54 years, probably longer, and every space agency with lunar ambitions had likely seen evidence, and everyone had chosen secrecy over disclosure. Why? Fear was the obvious answer. Fear of public reaction, fear of unknown technology, fear of losing control over the narrative. But there was another possibility, one that a small group of researchers began to whisper about in encrypted chats and anonymous tip-offs. What if contact had already been made? Not with the public, not through official channels, but quietly, government to unknown. Arrangements reached, understandings established, boundaries drawn. You stay on your side of the moon. We stay on ours. Interference will not be tolerated. Technology will not be shared. Observation will continue. It would explain the coordinated silence, the universal denial, the lack of international cooperation on lunar far side missions. Everyone knew. Everyone agreed. Keep it quiet. Keep humans away. Let them watch us, as long as they do nothing else. But the Russian mission violated that agreement. Touched what should not be touched, triggered a response. The astronaut who vanished might not be dead, might not even be human anymore, might be something else now. Changed, taken, stored, studied, a warning to others. November 2026. China announced a new lunar mission, Chang'e 8. Objectives vague, landing site classified, launch scheduled for early 2027. Rumors suggested the target was the far side again. A different crater, one of the 19 in the network. Western officials protested through diplomatic channels, asked China to reconsider, warned of unknown risks. China ignored them. Their space program had tasted mystery, found evidence of intelligence beyond Earth. National pride demanded answers, answers only boots on the ground could provide. Then something unexpected happened. An open letter appeared in a major scientific journal, signed by over 3,000 researchers from 90 countries. The letter called for an immediate international moratorium on far side landings. It cited the disappearance, the anomalous signals, the historical evidence of structures. It argued humanity was not ready, that we lacked protocols for contact, that unilateral missions risked catastrophic consequences for the entire species. The letter went viral. Millions read it. Debates erupted. Some supported caution. Others demanded transparency and aggressive exploration. Conspiracy theories flourished. Accusations flew. Governments that had spent years hiding evidence now faced a public demanding truth. Under pressure, the United Nations convened an emergency session. Topic: Governance of Lunar Far-Side Activity. For 2 weeks, diplomats argued, proposed treaties, drew red lines, threatened sanctions. China refused to back down. Russia remained silent. The United States called for a multinational task force. Nobody agreed on anything. December 15, 2026. The session ended without resolution. Each nation reserved the right to conduct lunar operations as it saw fit. The far side remained contested territory, open to whoever dared venture there. Chang'e 8 launched on schedule. January 9, 2027. It reached lunar orbit without incident. Descent preparations began. The world watched, not through official feeds. Those were restricted, but through amateur trackers, radio intercepts, leaked telemetry. The lander separated, began its powered descent toward a crater in the network, one that orbital imaging showed contained a small reflective anomaly. Another structure. Touchdown confirmed. Hatch opened. 2 crew members exited, approached the object. This time, cameras streamed live over encrypted channels that quickly broke wide open. Millions watched as the astronauts circled the structure, took samples of the surrounding regolith, set up instruments, measured electromagnetic fields. Then one astronaut placed a hand on the surface, just like before. The glow began, blue fractal patterns spreading, but this time, different. The light did not intensify. It pulsed, rhythmically, like a heartbeat. And from the top of the structure, a beam shot upward, straight up, piercing the black sky, visible from orbit, visible from Earth with a good telescope. The beam lasted 19 seconds, then stopped. The glow faded. The astronauts stood frozen, waiting. Nothing else happened. They collected samples, documented everything, returned to the lander, launched successfully, made it home, but the beam had been seen, photographed, analyzed. It was coherent light, a laser, pointing not at Earth, not at the sun, at a specific point in the sky, deep space, toward the constellation Centaurus, toward Alpha Centauri. Someone on the far side was calling home, or reporting, or requesting instructions. We do not know what message was sent. We do not know who received it. We only know that 4.37 light-years away, something now knows humans have touched one of their devices. Twice. And in 4.37 years, we will find out if they care. The clock is ticking. What happens when the reply arrives? Are we ready to meet the architects? Or will we wish we had listened to the warnings and stayed away? The far side holds answers, but answers come with consequences. Technology we do not understand. Intelligence we cannot predict. A presence that has watched us for decades. Maybe centuries, maybe longer, silent, patient, until we finally noticed. Now they know we see them. What comes next is not up to us anymore. It never was.